Let's do a little thought experiment. Let's say I had an idea for a story filled with monsters. Let's say a circus. So I got a nice variety of options here. I dedicate all of my time and energy into creating the most horrific lion tamer, with a grin so big it covers most of his face. Some Siamese twins that double as strongmen and constantly beat and bruise each other while they slaughter their victims with big dumbbells. Contortionists that hide inside tiny little cigar boxes waiting for some poor soul to walk by and spring out and shove them into their boxes, breaking and ripping flesh. And so on and so forth. Doesn't sound too bad, right? But...
oh man, there's always a catch!
I put a rush order on every human character in the story. Everyone has one character trait, they encounter each monster and get pwned like super easy. Almost no one has a character arc. You don't care whether or not any of them die. You just want to see a cool death and be done with it.
What? Oh, come on!
Yeah, I kind of ruined the whole story by doing a rush order, not only on every character you're supposed to like, at least a little, but I also did a rush order on the story so you're never actually invested in really anything that happens, and no one who reads or listens or watches this story is ever going to feel any lasting impressions. Speaking of which, I saw Tarot recently, and I may be a bit extra bitter about this one because this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year because it's supposed to be a creature feature with lots of different monsters and it chopping people up into pieces. So if you haven't gotten the feel of what I am about right now, I will be spoiling this one. Let's get spooky and have a little depth in this review, because apparently this movie didn't get the memo that it's not enough to just be spooky. So the movie starts off with 7 friends hanging around a campfire near a rented cabin. In this cast of friends, it's as diverse as a parody of a politically correct group of friends like in an SNL skit. Careful. Seriously, there's a white guy, a white red-headed girl, white blonde-headed girl, a Latin girl, a black guy, an Indian girl, and an Asian guy. Well, we've checked all the boxes. Now, let's see what kind of film history we're working with here. Well, there's almost nothing horror related here.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
We got somebody here from the new Mean Girls, someone from Midnight Club, another from Nobody. Oh, there's Jacob Batalon. Obviously he is big in the Spider-Man movies, but there is Reginald the Vampire, maybe worth checking out. Oh, you sly dog, Adrian Bradley. You thought you were gonna get away without me recognizing you? This guy is from the new Wrong Turn movie. That was actually my first big video on YouTube. I ripped that movie a new asshole, mostly because it had good marketing and it was the first horror movie to be released in theaters after the whole everything got shut down thing happened. I was ecstatic for that movie, only for it to be one of the worst movies I saw that year. It's good to see you again. You really gotta fire your agent. They are shit. Anyways, back to the movie. The group of friends are there to celebrate the birthday of Elise. They play some games around the campfire and an awkward moment is dropped when it's revealed that Haley and Grant broke up but didn't tell anybody yet. So they try to lighten up the mood and get more booze, but they're all out. So they start going through the whole house looking for something to get them sloshed. Lucas gets the brilliant idea to break through the only door in the house that is off limits. Hey, I guess for the sake of beer, nothing is off limits.
What a dick.
So the door leads to the basement, no booze sadly, but they do find essentially a collector's stash of random astrological related things and a special box of tarot cards. They bring them upstairs because they look really cool and beg Haley to do a reading. She is hesitant to do so because it's considered taboo to use someone else's cards, but good old birthday girl is going to get whatever she wants, so Haley does her reading. Haley deals out 12 cards in a circle, going off of a person's astrological sign, talking about their personality traits, and the 13th card is the theme or centerpiece of their reading. Elise, the birthday girl, can climb the ladder of success, but the priestess can fuck up you climbing up that ladder. Okay, that's not exactly what she said, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Next is Madeline, and she gets the hangman, who can mess with the things around her like technology not working properly. She shouldn't run from her problems. Next is Paige, Elise's girlfriend. She gets the magician. She goes out of her way for her friends, but the magician will make her feel like she is being pulled in two different directions, and she won't be able to see things clearly. Next is Paxton. He gets the fool. He should not act on impulse. He needs to trust others. He may feel trapped or boxed in situations, and he may show up for his friends unexpectedly. Lucas gets the hermit. He may experience a change in finances. There is love in the air for him. He may have poor judgment, and the hermit's light may lead him down the wrong track. Grant, Haley's now ex, reluctantly gets his reading. He gets the demon. He tends to pour gasoline on the fire in situations. He will have to face his demons or lose someone he cares about. A lot of what was just said relates to their recent breakup, so he storms off. Haley then does her own reading, which she apparently has done multiple times and gets the same result. Her card is death. Love is going to be the death of her. But death doesn't just mean the end of something, it can also mean the beginning of something new. I wonder if every single thing that was mentioned is gonna be relevant later.
Do you think so?
That night, we see the box light up while everyone is asleep, and we get some scenes of a witch in a cave doing some ritualistic things and then finishing it with slitting her own throat. Man, that's some commitment there. Everyone driving home, and the cool kid car is listening to a true crime podcast. Nice. They stop at a gas station, and Lucas surprises the car with a winning lotto ticket. Oh, just like in the reading.
Oh, shit!
That night, everyone is in their own apartments doing their own things, and Elise is on the phone with Paige. She starts hearing some strange things which get her out of her room, and she sees a ladder going up to an attic. Uh-oh. She climbs it up and sees the priestess, which scares her enough to fall down the ladder and collapse on the ground. As she struggles to crawl away, the priestess lifts up the ladder and slams it into Elise's back until blood explodes onto her phone. Hey, did I forget to mention that this movie's PG-13?
Fuck you, blow me.
Yeah, so obviously that makes my bones boil. But I will admit, that was a pretty well done kill for PG-13 standards. The next day, everyone gets the news and tries to comfort each other. Haley decides to stay the night with Paige and everyone else goes home. At Paige's place, she tries to find some reason behind what happened, and Haley bum rushes a quick story about her mom dying of some crazy illness.
Oh, boo-hoo!
I'd be a bit more sympathetic if the story didn't seem so shoehorned in. It's rushed, and we get a montage of random clips of her childhood instead of just giving us the actress's face and seeing pain expressed. I mean, that is her job, right? So Lucas walks Madeline home, and instead of convincing her to invite him up, because he's a total Chad, she bids him goodnight, he accepts it, and he takes the train home. Oh, but as he leaves the train station, the hermit guides him into an employee-only section of that station. The hermit gets him on a decommissioned train and then makes him jump off right into an oncoming train.
Just like the gypsy said!
The friends get the news the next day. 2 friends in 24 hours makes everyone paranoid, but the cops say there is no evidence of foul play, so they can't do much, and the gang storms off in a hoof. These moments in movies always bug me. Normal people thinking that all cops are like Sherlock fucking Holmes and can solve any crime with almost zero evidence. Back at Paige's place, everyone is in a panic and thinks the deaths are related to the readings, except for Grant. I get it that it is essential to have a skeptic in the group, but 2 friend deaths in a day should make everyone at least a little open-minded. But the group has no idea why anyone would kill them and immediately go to the supernatural. Interesting choice. My first thought would be the owner of the house they stayed at, because, you know, they did break down someone else's door to get to the only forbidden section of the house. It may not be a lot, but it is something more substantial than haunted tarot cards. Haley starts looking up stories similar to their current situation and quickly find cases of groups of friends being killed after a reading, and find a name of an expert to get some answers. They go to the expert's house and, oh look, it's the same old bat from the latest Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
Good lord, that movie sucked. She tells them a brief summary of the deaths that seem to have happened after people got their readings. The last story is about her, and the reason all of her friends died and not herself is because she didn't do her own reading. The crazy bird then tells the story behind the haunted tarot cards, or really, the person who made them, the witch, or the astrologer. Back in 1798, she was combining tarot cards and astrology. A local count asks her to give him a reading, hoping that it would be good fortune for his soon-to-be-born son. She does the reading but draws the card of death. He demanded that she does another reading, but the results came out the same. He threw her out of the house, and sure enough, his son died at birth. So, naturally, he accused her of being a witch and convinced the town to hunt down the astrologer's daughter. An eye for an eye. Classic. And when the astrologer saw her hung child, she then made the haunted tarot cards, bound her soul to them, and then the cherry on top, she offs herself to give it a death curse. Back to the group's shitty reality, the expert says the only way to maybe help them is if they can get their hands on the cards. The gang starts driving back and thinking back on their readings, and Madeline remembers that technology will stop working around her, and on cue, the car stops.
You're a fucking jinx!
A cool chill comes on our window, and the hangman plays a little game of hangman, and the answer is run. Okay, let's put aside how that was cheating because she didn't even get to guess, and that was also a super easy word, but she books it. And Haley, desperately running after her, tries to tell her that part of her reading is to not run from her problems, and just like that, a creepy monster from above drops a noose and hangs Madeline until she croaks. I'll admit, I was actually a little surprised. I thought she was gonna make it. I also was surprised that the characters aren't actually progressing. You would think by now that they would start learning from their readings, but out of the 7, 3 friends are dead, and all of them did exactly what the reading said was going to happen. So the gang is still feeling a bit helpless. Another friend is dead, one of their cars is now useless, and they're all out in the open. Paxton thinks that he can just isolate in a box and, quote, wait it out.
What?
Okay, I know that in the movie he is a Taurus and he is bullheaded, but the idea that you can wait out a curse when it's pretty well established that there's a supernatural force out to get them is beyond stupid. But he does it anyway. This dumb bastard just walks home alone. Paige, Haley, and Grant resolve to get to the house and get the cards. They do, pretty effortlessly, and they call the expert to come in and help. Meanwhile, Paxton gets a visit from the Fool. And this one is probably my favorite of the monsters because he's having the most fun. Also, clowns are a very easy, fun monster.
Don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny?
Paxton gets boxed into an elevator before we cut back to the rest of the group. Thanks, PG-13. So the expert performs a ritual to try to unbind the soul from the cards, but the idea goes tits up real quick, fast, and in a hurry. She gets a smidge possessed and does her own reading and gets the swords card. She is then lifted up and into the darkness. Everyone books it, and the expert's body falls to the floor in front of them with swords in her back. Wow, so are you just gonna keep playing useless experts in all of your movies? Good to know. I'll keep that in mind for every movie you are in from here on out. Anyways, so Paige, Haley, and Grant book it trying to find a safe place. But Paige gets taken by the shadows and meets the magician, and some light bulb blows up in the room and gets in her eyes a bit, making her a bit blind. She gets pulled onto a stage by the magician, and a crowd of ghosts cheer her on as she's played with a bit. She crawls away and sees a box. Gee, I wonder where this is going. She hides in the box, and I don't understand the logic here, because of course the box then gets dragged onto the stage and the giant saw goes through it. She's able to dodge the blade a few times before the magician makes the box smaller and then proceeds to cut it in half. They did a pretty good job with the presentation on this, and the magician sawing through the box with such tenacity was nice, but remember, this is still PG-13, so we only see kind of an artistic shot of her top half and none of the good stuff.
Whippy!
So it's just Haley and Grant left. They bond a little bit before their inevitable ends. But Haley thinks she can change fate and get the cards to do a reading on the astrologer herself. And right on cue, Grant gets ripped through a window by the demon. Haley goes for the cards. She gets messed with a little bit by Death, and then Grant comes back into play and takes a massive swing at Death with a fire poker. Haley is able to get to the cards and quickly does a reading as Grant is being pulled into a fiery pit. She gets really lucky and draws the death card on the astrologer. The cards, the box, and the astrologer all consume themselves and are destroyed for forever just before Grant is pulled into the flames. They start walking home, not sure why they didn't just take Paige's car. Maybe they couldn't find her body? I don't know, they didn't address it. A car comes towards them, and at first they think it's a good sign, but then harken back to their readings and think the astrologer is still out to get them. But it's Paxton!
Whippy!
They drive home and the credits roll, but then they get interrupted by Grant demanding that Paxton tell them how he survived. So he cowered in the corner of his elevator, and when the door opened, it was his roommate, and the fool just went away after that, and the movie ends.
What? Oh, come on!
So an all-powerful death curse got stopped just because some rando jabroni was nearby? This writing is shit! Let's break down the good and bad of this flick. The good, and this'll be quick. The cards are cool. The guy who did the art on them did a good job. The monsters are cool too. I liked the way they looked, and I liked how they killed all of the other characters in different ways to make them a bit more special. There were like 2 or 3 jokes in this flick that landed, and that's it. The bad. This writing is rushed. I know that this is based off of a YA novel, and I don't know anything about it, so I'm not sure if this is all true to the book, but if it is, they should have gone the boys route and changed it to tell a better story. You would think that eventually the characters would harken back to their readings to try to help themselves out and beat their monsters or just prolong their deaths a bit longer. That never happens with any of them. You would also think that there would be some kind of pattern, like in the Final Destination movies, the people who are going to die next are in the same order as they would have initially died, with some playful exceptions here and there. But these were all random. They don't die in the order that their readings were told. Or maybe they did go in order of their astrological signs and I just missed it, but they never say once who is going to be next. Like, okay, we gotta protect that person so that it doesn't jump to the next person. There may be a supernatural entity chasing after them, but for pretty much the entire movie, they are attacked or killed one after the other, never all at once. Another point, the only character we even know a little bit more about is Haley, and this tiny little story of her mom dying, but like I said before, it's so rushed and forced that I didn't really care that much when this character ended up being in danger. All of the other characters are just cannon fodder, and it was nice for a bit, but I never once cared whether or not any of these characters were going to survive. And that's not always a bad thing. For example, this feeling feels right at home with classic slashers like Friday the 13th or Halloween. However, my favorite amongst the old school slashers are the ones that still have characters that you like and you feel something when they die, like in Dream Warriors or Halloween 2. Both those deaths were pretty shocking, and I really thought the wizard kid was going to survive at the end. Nope. And another final gripe is the tone. There is a bit of humor at the beginning, almost none in the middle, and then that atrocious ending. The people who wrote this clearly couldn't decide whether or not they wanted a fun horror movie or a serious one. There's nothing wrong with serious moments in a dark comedy. It actually helps the comedy breathe by letting the horror sit for a bit. But there was no good reason why Paxton survived. There was no good reason why they needed to do a fake out credit roll to tell us how he survived. Oh, my roommate just opened the elevator door and the ghost that already killed 3 of my friends within the last 48 hours just ran off like a pussy. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's cause I think astrology is kind of bullshit. Now don't get me wrong, eldritch horror that does come from the stars is fucking awesome. But this just didn't cut it. The villain has a classic revenge backstory. The monsters are cool, the kills are pretty good considering it's PG-13, and you can't do a rush job on your 7 main characters to the point where none of them really progress. Another way they could have shown progression is us finding out who owned the house the group rented and had a bit more mystery to unravel in the story. But we just get all of the backstory and nothing else with the first person they fucking Googled and tracked down. Dead Silence is a great example of a revenge story where the characters don't really progress, but the mystery solving does. That is it for me. Do not see this movie in theaters. It's just not worth your money. Wait till something else drops. Thanks for watching, and stay spooky. Oh, and before you go, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the Horror Mind. I've known that guy for years, and his shout out recently helped me out a lot with my channel. And if anyone who is here from there, welcome. I know it probably won't make much of a difference, but feel free to give that guy a sub and a watch, especially if you're a fan of Asian horror movies. Speaking of, I'll give a little shout out to all of my other horror content creating friends. There's Johnny Recaps Movies, The Cinema Chop Shop, Unleash the Ghouls, Ghost Pirate Entertainment, and Rainbow Fright. It might not mean much because I am the runt of the litter, but feel free to check out one of their vids, and if you like them, give them a sub. And feel free to give me one and check out one of my other videos. It'll be spooky.